Hello, motion viewers. Welcome back. Ms. Tom Heffer is going to present something related to 2024 presidential election. Good afternoon, Mr. Heffer.
Good afternoon, Dr. Liu. It's good to see you again. So last time we talked about ranked choice voting, and at the end, I promised that I would tell you how it would be possible to elect someone other than Trump or Biden. So that's what we'll do today. So the question is, in 2024, how could we elect a president who is not named Trump or Biden? Now, this is actually what most people seem to want. About 70% of the people in this poll don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee, and about 70% also don't want Joe Biden to be the nominee. And yet, it looks like they are going to be the nominees. So how is it possible that someone else could be elected? Well, first, we've got to talk about how presidents are elected. So each state has a number of electors that go to the Electoral College that's equal to its total number of senators plus representatives. So a small state that might have only one congressman and two senators would get 3 electors, and then large states like California have 57 or something like that. And then the District of Columbia also gets 3 electors. So this results in a total of 538 electors, so it takes a majority, 270, to win. All the states except Nebraska and Maine award all of their electors to the plurality winner. So whoever gets the most votes, not necessarily a majority, just the most votes in that state, get all of the electors. And we'll see how that looks when we get to the map. But what it means is that a third-party candidate can result in the winner of the election not having a majority in most places. For example, in 1992, Bill Clinton won the presidency despite getting majorities nowhere except in Arkansas and DC. And that's because Ross Perot was a candidate for a third party, and he siphoned away a lot of votes in a lot of states. But at this point, it looks like Trump will be the Republican nominee and Biden will be the Democrat nominee. So how could someone else win? Here's how presidents are elected. This is the electoral map from the 2020 election. So all the states that are colored red are states whose electors went to the Republican Party, Donald Trump, and all the ones in blue are the states that went to the Democrat Party and Joe Biden. And then if you notice, Nebraska is split. It had 4 electors for Trump and 1 for Biden. And Maine is also split. It had 3 for Biden and 1 for Trump. So the electoral totals are shown up at the top. So the Democrats had 303 and the Republicans had 235. And it takes 270 to win. And so up at the top, that shows the balance point. So the Democrats were well over half. So that's the halfway point. How could anything else happen? Doesn't somebody have to have a majority? Well, possibly not. If Trump and Biden are the 2 candidates, there is a third party waiting in the wings called No Labels that has a lot of very interesting and powerful people in it. But what could No Labels do that could affect the result of the presidency? I mean, they're not going to have a candidate who can win the majority vote in most of the states. So how could they possibly affect the election? Well, this is where things get interesting. So possibly what they could do is choose a candidate who can get a plurality in states like Pennsylvania and Georgia. And as an example, they could possibly nominate as their presidential candidate Brian Kemp, who is the current governor of Georgia. So he'd be pretty likely to get a plurality in Georgia. And if he campaigned hard, he might get 40% in Pennsylvania, which would also give him a plurality. So what would that do to the electoral map? Well, very interesting. So here we're showing Georgia and Pennsylvania going to a third party candidate. And if the election is exactly the same, except for those two states, the same as it was in 2020, it results in the Democrats having 268 electoral votes. Republicans still have 235, and then there are 35 in the middle that are for someone else. So the point is, no one would have a majority. So what happens if no one has a majority? Well, that's where things get interesting. The 12th Amendment deals with that. If no one has a majority, that is to say 270 electors, then the election gets thrown into the House of Representatives. And they choose the president from among the top three vote getters. So the top three vote getters would be Biden, Trump, and the no labels person. But the vote is different from what you'd think. It's not simply a vote of each congressman. Instead, it's a vote where each state gets one vote. So the congressmen within the state have to vote, and then whatever that outcome is, that state goes for the candidate that they voted for. Then the Senate chooses the vice president from among the two top vote getters, with each senator getting one vote. Now, what complicates things even more is that this would presumably happen after the election in the new Congress that would be inducted in 2024. So it's very hard to predict what would happen. But here are how things look if things just stayed the same. Right now, if you look at which states have majorities of Republican congressmen versus Democrat congressmen, the Republican ones are shown in red and the Democrat ones are shown in blue. And then there are two states that are tied, Minnesota and North Carolina. So if you add it up, the Republican majority states are 26. So if everything stays the same, they would hold sway, but it might not, because in 2024, there will be a whole new election for Congress. So what might happen? Well, if the Democrats have a majority, would they vote for Biden? Probably so. But what if the Republicans still have a majority? Would they vote for Trump? Well, possibly not. Suppose that two states out of the 26 don't vote for Trump. Then no one has a majority. So they would have to have another ballot, do the same thing over again and over again and over again. And they're under the gun because if no president has been elected by Inauguration Day, then the vice president, who is chosen by the Senate, becomes the acting president. So the House would need to get its act together and actually vote in a president. And if there were a lot of committed no Trumpers and also perhaps some no Bideners, it is possible that they could settle on a compromise candidate from no labels, who would presumably be someone from a faction more moderate than either the Democrats or Republicans. So it could get very interesting. And for example, you could have a no labels president with a vice president who was a Democrat or Republican. So you wouldn't even have a single party in the administration. Things could be very complicated in 2024 if all that happened. So that concludes the discussion of how it would be possible for someone different than Trump or Biden to be elected. Next time, I will tell you about how we can reverse global warming 10 times faster and 100 times more cheaply than anything that we're doing now. So stay tuned. So Dr. Liu, do you have any questions?
So I think it's interesting, and it's based on probably mathematics and theory. But in reality, we never met such things happened. I think one reason is we never have a strong third-party candidate that can pass the line, right?
That is true, but the election has been thrown into the House of Representatives on at least one occasion, and I think possibly more than that going way back. And the time that I'm aware of that it was thrown into the House, it took them some amazing number of ballots, like 33 ballots before they could select a president, because just then, as now, there were two very divided factions. And so it took them forever to work out a compromise. But eventually they do, and that's what would happen this time.
From some view, Trump acts like a third-party candidate. He successfully controls the GOP. So, but I fear a lot of his hardcore supporters, they won't support any other candidate if it's not Trump.
No, the reason that a third-party candidate would win would be if let's just say that the Republicans control Congress. So the Democrats have no chance of having Congress elect Biden as the president, but that there are also enough delegations who do not want Trump that there is no chance of electing Trump as president. Then what other option do they have? They only have the third candidate. So I don't think it's impossible. It is unlikely. I will grant you that. I don't think that has ever actually happened before, but there are a lot of things about today that have never happened before.
Exactly. Thank you for today, and we look forward to your next topic. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.